China has banned Bitcoin again. It's the second time this week that China has banned Bitcoin, or at least if you're reading the news, if you're believing what the mainstream media is saying, that is probably the message that you're taking away. But the reality, as usual, is very different from what is being reported by the FUD media, essentially the mainstream media, which is in bed with the big corporations, in bed with the big institutions, in bed with all of the elite class that are manipulating the markets. You know, the JP Morgan crowds, the Goldman Sachs crowds, all of these guys that are there pulling the strings, trying to create the FOMO, create the fear, and manipulate what is going on. So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down what is going on with this China ban 2.0 this week. This will be the second time China's banned Bitcoin in a week. Come on, China. Come on. So I'll dive into that story as well as really what all of this actually means and what the takeaways for you should be from this fear, uncertainty, and doubt that we're seeing happening in the cryptocurrency markets right now. My name's Lark. Every day I make videos talking about cryptocurrency investing. So if that's a topic that you'd like to learn some more about, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Gently tap on the thumbs up button. Not too hard, don't break your screens. Don't need to have thumbs up button abuse going on here, and keep it chill. And of course, click on the notification bell to know when I put out a new video. So let's go ahead and turn over to the charts to get started off with. So as you can see on the chart here, Bitcoin is still under the 200-day moving average. It's been struggling, hit it here resistance, hit it here as resistance, not even getting back up to test it as resistance. Now it's just kind of meh, meh. That is the general sentiment right now with Bitcoin. So this is Bitcoin saying that yes, it is in a bearish trend right now. Remember, under that 200-day moving average, that is basically saying, well, Bitcoin is letting the bears take control of the market. Now, that does not necessarily mean that we are in a bear market now. It just means that we are in a bearish trend within what I believe is still the wider bull market. These kind of intense corrections can and do happen during a bull market. Remember the greed, the euphoria, all that craziness that was happening last few weeks. It was pretty intense. But on the flip side, it was also nothing compared to the insanity of 2017. And I know that sentiment in the market and all that stuff, it's incredibly hard to actually gauge. But I don't think that this is the bear market yet. We are just in this bearish trend in the short term. I think before you know it, we're going to see Bitcoin closing back above the 200-day moving average. But until that happens, the bears are in charge of the market. Until we cross back over the 200-day moving average and start closing some decent candles with some decent volume to back them up, the bulls are taking the back seat here. So let's see how it plays out here over the next few days. Now, if we zoom into the 4-hour chart just a little bit, we can see that after the big sell-off candle here, we have actually now put in a higher low for Bitcoin. So hopefully we see another one of these coming. We can actually start talking about building up the price and getting ready to re-challenge that 200-day moving average. By the way, if you want to trade some Bitcoin, some Ethereum, some Cardano, some Chainlink, whatever you might fancy trading, check out Phemex. It is the best futures trading platform on the market. Now, it is only for experienced traders, but if you are a trader, then they are running some great bonus promotions right now. So you can get up to $150 just by using the link down below in the description to start your account. You also get 10% off your fees by using that link. So all you have to do is complete some basic tasks like doing your first trade, making your first deposits. You can get that up to $150 bonus. Plus, for a limited time only, they are doing a $2,000 trading bonus. Now, this ends in about 2.5 days. So all you have to do, deposit some Bitcoin. You can do it with as little as 0.01 Bitcoin. You get a $20 bonus, all the way up to 2 Bitcoin and a $2,000 bonus. So if you are a trader, then check that out using the first link down below in the description. Now let's talk about the psychology of the market. Just where the heck are we right now in this chart? So a lot of people are really having the conversation right now. Are we here? Is this simply the first major sell-off of the market? We are now in a bear trap where a lot of people are going to be trying to short the market now that we're under the 200-day moving average. They're thinking, hey, the bear market's coming in. Everything's going to drop another 50, 60, 70, 80%. It's all over. This is simply meant to catch out the bears, wash out a whole truckload of new investors, and just, reset the markets a little bit. So that could be this first sell-off occasion, or it could, of course, be a bull trap. And this is what the other half of the market seems to be talking about right now. So we've actually already gone through this situation of, we got the media attention, we had the enthusiasm, we had the greed, the meme coins, the craziness, the delusion, Dogecoin's going to $1, everything's going to go to the moon, new paradigm of money, and then the market corrects dramatically. So, right, we came down, Bitcoin hit minus 54% at its lows the other day. And so we could right now be in this false sense of security zone where we are actually entering into a bull trap where we're going to see the price come back up a little bit. It's all good. Return to normal. Everything's fine. We're all going to make it. It's all going to be all good. And then blam, the markets tank beyond what you can probably imagine the markets fricking tanking by. Now, I am more in the camp of this is a bear trap. This is the first major sell-off in the market. This does not feel like a market-topping scenario for me, but I'd be curious to know what you think. Do you think that we are in the bear trap phase, or do you think we are in the bull trap phase here on this? Let me know down below in the comment section. Very curious to know your thoughts on that. Now, I agree with Crypto Amsterdam here. You can see where the market has been in the past, where we've had these basically sort of sell-off periods before the main highs come in the market. So we saw this back here in 2011, saw this back here in 2013, where we had a massive markup period after passing the previous all-time highs. Big moves up, massive, brutal corrections coming back down afterwards before pressing on to go for the real parabolic rise in the asset's price over the next few months. We can see it happened again here in 2017. We passed over the initial, so the previous bull market highs, came in here to hit some massive, brutal corrections. These Wyckoff distribution phases come into play. And then, of course, the parabolic rise, blow off top, going straight up, basically. Now, bull markets tend to end with these just massive blow off tops. And so the question then becomes, does this right here look like a blow off top to you? Or does this look more like what we've seen here and here and here, where we are having these situations of a correction phase, a distribution, but not the end of the market? We are still waiting for that parabolic rise where Bitcoin goes up hundreds of % in a few weeks' time, probably after a Bitcoin ETF is approved. So that's some food for thought for you. I kind of more agree with this sentiment right now, where we are simply experiencing a big, painful, brutal correction within a bull market, and that the bear market is not here. A short-term bear trend within a bull market, pain for a few weeks or even a couple of months does not mean a bear market is here. It means that there's a bearish trend within a bull market. Just like you can have a bullish trend within a bear market, which is basically what happened in 2019. This was definitely still the bear market. This was simply a bear market rally when the price went from $3,000 up to $10,000, $11,000, $12,000, whatever it went up to in 2019, before, of course, crashing again, because that was not a bull market. That was a bear market rally. So a bullish period within a wider bear market. Right now, we are seeing a bearish period within a wider bull market. So something for you to think about. And let's talk about the China FUD. China, man. Come on, China. What are you doing? So the China FUD literally, we have the second major China FUD story of the week, which we'll get into in just a second. I want to give you some history on China FUD. I've got a few stories here for you, and this is far from all the stories. I got to tell you that. There's a lot more times that China has cracked down on Bitcoin, banned Bitcoin, whatever you want to say, brought in prohibitions, new laws, new restrictions, etc., etc., etc. China's been doing this for a long time. Now, the first big China banning Bitcoin event happened back in 2013. Now, that actually did lead to a pretty brutal market situation that kind of brought in the bear market, right? So people freaked out about this, and Bitcoin was tiny back then. It was just a little baby, back then. But 2013, China banned Bitcoin, and it's, in case you haven't checked your calendars recently, it's currently 2021. So China banned Bitcoin back in 2013, and 2021's here, and Bitcoin is still not dead. Bitcoin didn't give a damn about China banning it back in 2013. Now, later in 2017, China quote-unquote banned Bitcoin. This was particularly focused on prohibiting trading, so a lot of exchanges left China, although a couple of the biggest exchanges are still in Beijing, basically, so they haven't necessarily even left China. A couple of them did, like Binance. They left China after that. A few exchanges like Huobi, they're still based there. But basically, they prohibited trading for people in China, and they also restricted Chinese citizens from being able to participate in ICOs. Now, that wasn't even the end of the bull market in 2017. That happened in October or something like this. And so we had months of bull market that still came after China banning those things. And of course, China was completely unsuccessful at banning trading or banning ICO investing or any of that stuff. All this stuff has continued simply as a black market in China. And I've covered a lot of stories over the last few years about the raging black market for cryptocurrencies in China. And of course, a lot of it is not even necessarily that black anymore. It's more of a gray market. But anyway, they did not succeed back in 2017. Then in 2018, China started cracking down on mining. Interestingly, China's been cracking down on Bitcoin mining for years, and yet, China is still the biggest Bitcoin miner by total hash power rate of all the companies based in China mining Bitcoin in China. No one else is even close. Chinese companies based in China control around 65% of the total hash rate. That's because they can access super cheap power in China, and the mining machines are made in China, which means they don't have to pay export fees or import fees in other countries, or the shipping fees to ship these heavy computers all around the world. They can just pop them on the back of a truck from where they're made on the East Coast, drive them into central China where they can get cheap hydroelectric power, hook them in, and off they go. So the China mining crackdown in 2018 also did not end Bitcoin. Then we had this article in 2019. This is a crackdown on China's Bitcoin miners. Again, more China crackdown on Bitcoin miners. And look, one of the things that the Chinese government has done is to move a lot of miners, and there's still quite a few miners there, but they moved quite a few miners out of Inner Mongolia. They've also cracked down on illegal mining operations, so they wanted people to be registered. That was kind of their big thing back in 2019. They wanted all Bitcoin miners to simply be registered with the government so that people aren't avoiding paying their taxes and all that stuff. So they shut down illegal Bitcoin mining operations, made people get licensed, and have slowly been trying to move Bitcoin miners out of Inner Mongolia. I imagine they'll be trying to move them out of the Xinjiang province as well, as those are both heavy coal-powered districts within China. But those two districts, Xinjiang and Inner Mongolia, are not where the majority of Bitcoin mining happens. The majority of Bitcoin mining is happening in the Sichuan province, where it is mostly hydroelectric power that is produced and consumed locally and not easy to transfer to the big East Coast cities that are a couple thousand kilometers away. So they're actually using excess power that would otherwise not be used. So they're using that for mining. So that brings you up to speed with some of the history. And that's not all the stories, by far. There's quite a few more stories we could talk to if we want to really dive into the China banning Bitcoin topic. But earlier this week, China banned Bitcoin again. Now, that China banning Bitcoin story that happened 4 or 5, 6 days ago, that was actually some Chinese financial regulators reiterating earlier laws that had been passed either in 2013 or in 2017. They didn't do anything new. They simply reiterated what was already existing laws in China. Now, that was reported by Western media as basically the end of Bitcoin. China's banning Bitcoin, which of course was total BS because these were pre-existing laws and they were just writing a letter to just say, hey, let's not all forget about the laws that we passed 4 or 8 years ago, basically in the previous bull markets. And those laws, of course, have been completely freaking ineffective at stopping China becoming one of the biggest purchasers and users and traders in terms of countries, populations, as well as, of course, being the biggest country for Bitcoin mining. So the newest FUD, the China banning Bitcoin 2.0 this week is that China is cracking down on Bitcoin miners. Now, as we just discussed, China's been cracking down on Bitcoin miners for a long time. But what's interesting about this newest story that's being propagated by the Western media is that it's more BS. So this is, according to sources in China, the ban on mining is only restricted to mining run by coal-fired power plants. And you know what? That has always been the case for Bitcoin mining in China. Well, not always been the case, but certainly been the case since they've passed those laws back in 2013 and 2017. The laws and the crackdowns, particularly related to mining, were always focused on coal-powered mining. The Chinese government hasn't ever really gone after the hydroelectric miners in Sichuan. They're okay with that. What they've not wanted is for miners in China to be mining their Bitcoin using the coal-fired power plants in Inner Mongolia and the Xinjiang province. So this is reiterating here that mining based on hydroelectric power is not banned. It's not banned. It's not banned. So they have not banned Bitcoin mining in China. So it's all good. And look, even if they did ban Bitcoin mining in China, which they're not doing, and there's still a lot of Bitcoin being mined with coal in China, which is not good, and I wish that wasn't happening. And I think over time, as China upgrades its power grid to be more and more renewable, which it's doing at a faster pace than almost any other country on the planet, that this conversation around Bitcoin's carbon footprint will be a much smaller conversation because there will be much more Bitcoin being mined with renewables. But it won't deal with the China coin kind of FUD that gets spread around about Bitcoin, that China somehow controls Bitcoin in spite of it being a decentralized network. It's just a question of economics. Why aren't other countries stepping up to produce the chips and the mining machines? That's what it really comes down to. Everybody who's out there complaining, saying, oh, it's China coin, whatever. Why isn't America out there producing the Bitcoin mining machines? Because they can't compete economically to build those cheap machines, to have the cheap labor to build them, to be able to get the cheap chips. The Chinese companies are able to do all that stuff. They produce locally. They get very low labor costs. They buy the chips directly from manufacturers, which are also located in China. They don't have to pay the export fees. They don't have to pay the import fees. They just put them in a truck, drive them to the Sichuan province, plug them in, and start mining Bitcoin and making profit. That's the most profitable way to mine Bitcoin, which is why so many companies are still mining in China, even after all this time. So this kind of FUD that we see coming through in the market, what is the intention of it? Why are all these Western media organizations propagating news that is loosely based on reality? Well, manipulation, market manipulation. And I know they manipulate the market when they go up and manipulate the market when they go down. But what we're seeing right now is a record level of selling. Let's see if this comes up okay here. A record level of selling down behind my head here. This is where this actually goes down to. So this is the net realized profit loss chart. So the level of selling right now, people selling at bigger losses than they did in the March 2020 COVID crash. So that it really tells you that a lot of new money has come into the market and they are now panic selling their Bitcoin. You see, the guys who were selling back in March 2020, those were largely OG holders, people who had survived 2018. They survived this insanity here in terms of the price dropping by 50% overnight for Bitcoin with the Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Satoshi Vision hash war thing that went on. They survived all this craziness and they got to this point and they're like, man, I got to capitulate, or I have to sell because I'm afraid about the global economy. Whatever it might have been, a lot of people capitulated and sold at a loss here. But what's crazy is that now we have all these new people in the market that have bought at all these crazy high prices, and now they're hardcore panic selling at a loss. And of course, as always, who's on the other side of that? Bitcoin whales and institutions. So data shows that whales scooped up $5.5 billion in Bitcoin as the price dropped below $36,000. So while people who bought at $55,000, $60,000, $65,000 are panic selling their Bitcoin, the whales and institutions are panic buying the Bitcoin. They're on the other side of the trade. So the people who have been manipulating the market, all these institutional players who have been propagating all this FUD in the market. I mean, the last week's been crazy. Look at all the FUD stories that have come out. I'm sure, I don't know, wake up tomorrow and some other country will have banned Bitcoin. But this is the game. This is the game. The whales, the institutions, the millionaires, the billionaires, the private funds, the family offices, they're all stepping in and buying up the dip. Retail investors largely panic selling the dip. If you want to make it long-term in this market, look at what the big money actually is doing. Don't watch what they say. Watch what they actually do. That is where the winning is done. And thankfully, we have all this on-chain data to actually know what is literally happening in the markets. Anyway, those are just my 2 Satoshis for the day. Your question, the same question I asked you earlier. Do you think that what we're seeing right now is a bull trap or a bear trap? Curious to hear your thoughts down below in the comments section. Thanks so much for watching today's video, and peace out till next time.